Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. On today's show, it was a crazy day in the NBA. James Harden is now on the Cavaliers, but is he enough to save this version of the team? Meanwhile, the Grizzlies traded Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Jazz. Is Ja Morant next? Plus, will Giannis get moved before Thursday's deadline?
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg. Today we're talking about a wild day of trades in the NBA. We just saw James Harden get traded to the Cavaliers, the Grizzlies start a rebuild, and the Jazz maybe end one. We're talking about all of that with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast. He's a senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt?
Before we get started, I just want to congratulate all the NBA executives on National Save Your Own Ass Week as they continue to make deals to try and prolong their own jobs, no matter what it does to the franchise and their fans.
#1 job, keep the job. That's the general manager. From the Locked On Bulls podcast, he's also a Bears and Bulls creator for Bleacher Report. It's Haize.
Yesterday was just the tip of the iceberg. I feel like today may be even crazier with some of the stuff I've read.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. There might be breaking news as we record this thing. If there is, obviously, we'll talk about it. But let's start with the big trade that had been percolating in the league over the last couple of days and finally got done late last night. The Cavaliers trading Darius Garland and a second-round pick to the Clippers for James Harden. I think the only way to view this from the Cavs' perspective is this is a desperate move to maximize this championship window. We talked about it a little bit on yesterday's show. Here's Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs with more on the breaking news.
But the Cleveland Cavaliers on Tuesday night went all in on this season and next season. That's what the window is now. And after that, who knows what this team is going to look like? I don't know that their long-term future is as bright as it was on Monday evening, on Tuesday evening. But right now, I think there is a case to be made that they are better suited for the 2026 season and the postseason that is in front of us. And yes, I know you immediately think when I say that, well, they traded for James Harden. It's not as if they traded for this all-time winner. And I completely understand that, and I agree with that. Like, that is why I don't necessarily think that I am in love with this trade. I do wonder what else the Cavs could have gotten. And I do know that, the Clippers are not the only team that the Cavs called asking, like, what they thought of Darius Garland.
So now that the trade is done, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but now that it's done, Matt, what do you think about Harden's fit next to Donovan Mitchell?
Not great. I mean, I think Jared Allen benefits from this a lot. The shooters benefit from this a lot. You have the option, basically. The concept is structurally similar to Rockets 18 with Chris Paul and Harden, but Chris was so much more of a pure point than Donovan is. Donovan's a great passer. He's a really underrated passer, and he is more athletic than Chris, obviously, just in terms of like he's a little bit bigger and he's got more. The Euro step of his is so good. But it's not quite that. So it's going to be a lot of like your turn, my turn. You can run guard screens there. Harden doesn't like that. Harden wants a good screen from a center rolling to the rim. Like, put him with Jared Allen. Now, the good news is like this saves Donovan Mitchell's legs a little bit, and that can keep him healthy. So there's benefit there. Defensively, the problem is it's like, oh, Darius Garland is so small and can't defend, but he's willing to, and James isn't, and he's never been willing to, and he's not going to be willing to. You can't switch on him, which you can do that, but you can't switch with Jared Allen anyway. So like, I don't love this move. They're going to wind up paying him Haize, and that's where I start to be like, guys, not like, I don't understand the desperation here. Making a move, great. You want to get better. Like, you're good enough to win the title. Go after it. But this is desperation when I'm like, you're top 10 in offense, defense. You're there. Like, you're close enough, man. You had a bad start to the season. You're close enough. You want to move Darius Garland. There's a lot of different options you could have gone for. I don't think Harden was the move if you're going all in now.
Yeah, I mean, the Harden fit is interesting. Now, I mean, if rumors are to be believed, Donovan Mitchell may have had part of kind of pushing for this. The fit there is questionable. I think it comes down to, does Harden try to be, again, Houston James Harden? or does he try to adapt and actually fit in with what this team needs? Because he is a really good passer. What is he, third in the league in assists this year? Like, James Harden is a really, really good passer and facilitator. And if he willingly takes a complimentary role to what they already have here, then there's a possibility for it. One thing I'm encouraged by, I mean, if you look at the on-off when Tyrese Maxey and James Harden were on the court together before Harden left the 76ers, it was pretty promising. They had a plus net rating. The offensive rating was pretty good. The defensive rating wasn't terrible either. And I think the Cavs have a more consistent and better frontline defense. So I do think there's a world in which this works. Harden just you have to have a complete and total buy-in for Harden to realize that he can't be the typical James Harden in this one. And maybe it leads to him being a more efficient player as well. If he picks his spots a little bit better, he can be more efficient offensively. But that passing, if he's willing to let that be kind of the focus here, I think he can help Mobley. I think he'd help Jared Allen. I think, like you said, it could help the shooters. I think it helped this team a lot.
Like, here's the thing. Mitchell on courts plus 8.3. Awesome. They are a wagon when Donovan's on the floor. When he's off the court, they're only minus 1.8. Like, a lot of this is like, they've lost a lot of random games for a lot of random reasons versus I can't look at this team and point out, even when I watch them, or when you look at the data and go, oh, what they really need is to just shore up the bench minutes. If you can do that, then you're good enough. Like, Donovan's going to play more minutes in the playoffs anyway. You're talking about like 4 minutes a game that you're really kind of concerned about. 6 minutes, maybe, right? Donovan's going to play by this. If you want to go deep, Donovan's going to play 44 minutes a night. That's just what's going to happen. So Harden's availability is the big sell from some of the Cavs fans. And like the Cavs fans are very split on this. The availability is the argument is like, well, Darius is hurt, so having somebody who's not hurt is good. For me, this is about opportunity cost. It's that Garland is a 2-time All-Star. Garland is a good player. Garland does have upside. You cannot tell me, based off of the moves that have been made and that will be made in the next 48 hours, that there was no option that was better than this one.
Part of me wonders how much of the Cavaliers were just happy to get out of the Darius Garland business after all the injuries that he's had. I mean, if anybody knows the injuries, it's Cleveland. And for the Clippers, they obviously don't care about their stars being hurt. That's more of a feature than a bug for them, Matt.
I'm sorry. I want to note this because this is a really good point that someone made. My friend Eric, who's a big Cavs fan, noted this. The first reports were it was going to be Harden and a first-round pick for Garland, and it wound up being Garland and a second-round pick for Harden, which is probably an indication that what happened was the
information got shared.
The Clippers got a hold of the medical and was like, "Hey, like you're not getting Harden unless we get an asset. You're not getting a pick with it." So something to kind of keep in mind.
I understand the fit concerns, but Mitchell and Garland were never a great fit. They were productive. They won 64 games or whatever it was last season together. I do think that there's really no question to me that this makes the Cavaliers a better team right now. If anything, just because Garland wasn't playing for them and Harden will, that just makes them a better team. We'll see if it's enough, right? I mean, the big story here is Donovan Mitchell. Again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Is this enough to basically maximize this window and keep Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland? Guys, the Cavaliers have a history of this. Except it was LeBron James the first time they had him, right? They go out and make the Antoine Jameson move, Larry Hughes, all this stuff. Like, this is the Cavaliers special. Go out and get the star player who might not be the best fit, but hopefully it saves the star player that we already have. I don't know. Let's talk about the Clippers part of this because they get Garland, 26 years old, 2-time All-Star. His contract does go beyond 2027 with the Clippers. You know, that's the summer that the Clippers have earmarked as the one that they want to be aggressive in. That said, as long as they kind of keep the books the way that they are, they should still have plenty of space to do stuff that summer, even with Garland under contract through that summer. But like we already talked about, there are some serious injury concerns with Garland too. Haize, when you look at this trade from the Clippers side of things, do you think that this was a win? Because, you know, on one hand, you get a 10-year a point guard who's a 2-time All-Star who's 10 years younger as you're kind of starting to veer into what could be maybe a new chapter for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be a win. It depends on how willing how willing they are to dive really into that new chapter. As you said, if they do that, then it can be a win. And I think if Darius Garland shows himself to be healthy, you can always flip him as well down the road if he starts getting healthy and there's some interest there. So I think it can be a win. I'm not ready to call it a win yet because I just don't know what the Clippers' goal is here, what they're going to be doing with their roster going forward.
Trade Kawhi now. Trade him.
Mm.
Trade him right now.
Ooh.
Trade him. Go quickly and quietly. You're not so far ahead that you're definitely going to make the play in. You could still, I guess, I don't know. You're on your pick. They probably don't. No, they don't because the Thunder have it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Go trade Kawhi right now. Trade him. Trade him under the cover of night. Go trade him. Go do it. Like, I would absolutely get out of the Kawhi Leonard business. I would get out of the Brook Lopez business. I would get out of the Nick Batum business. I would keep Ivica Zubac, who continues to pop up in trade talks, even though like everyone else around the league is like, Ivica Zubac is available, and the Clippers are like, no, he's not. And I don't know who's lying. But like, I would get out of the business on all of these guys. This is an opportunity. You have an opportunity right now. Get out now.
Trade Kawhi back to the Raptors just for giggles.
Yes, now you're talking.
I kind of like Kawhi on this Raptors team. That
Right?
team can play. That team can compete in the Eastern Conference. Haize, you might be onto something there.
Structurally, it's a lot like the team that won the title. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah. Get some bonus too while you're at it. The rebuild might finally be over in Utah, but a new one might be beginning here with the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll talk about it next. Today's episode of Locked on NBA Daily is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game that everybody's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, you could bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding somebody willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping that the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want somebody who can help. I'd want somebody with real experience who can jump right in and make a difference. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you're looking for. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a good fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. Welcome back to Locked on NBA Daily. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. We air Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go to the more surprising trade of the day that happened yesterday afternoon when the Grizzlies traded Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Jazz for 3 first-round picks coming from various different places. A bunch of players were involved. I'm not going to bore you with the details. You can find the specifics if you want. But the meat of the bone right here is that the Jazz get a former Defensive Player of the Year in the prime of his career, somebody who the Locked On Podcast Network ranked the 25th best player in the league coming into the season. Of course, talking about Jaren Jackson Jr. You pair him with Larry Markkinen and Keontae George. After years of rebuilding in Utah, David Locke seems excited.
But it's over. The witch is freaking dead. The rebuild is dead. We don't do this anymore. It's over. It's over. Isn't that what we all like? Please spend it with me. Have this moment with me. I'll give you the analysis. I'll give you the geeky numbers. I'll give you all stuff. But can we just have a moment? We've been doing this together for 3.5 years. And we don't have to do it anymore.
Downright giddy, Haize. Is the rebuild really over for the Utah Jazz?
Not this season. They still have a top 8 protected pick that they need to secure. So don't like pump your brakes on that. But I think we already thought this would be the last season of tanking for the Utah Jazz. And it seems like this just solidifies that. I think they're still going to finish out the season. They're still going to do their weird lineup things, and they're going to tank to make sure they get their pick. But next season, yeah, I think that the Jazz are going to be done rebuilding. We'll see what they do with Walker Kessler or not, because I tell you what, while they have some shaky defense out on the perimeter, you got Jaren Jackson Jr. and Walker Kessler as your front line. They're some of the best rim protection in the league. So I do think it's coming to an end. The train is starting to slow down on the rebuild for the Jazz.
All of a sudden, this team looks really exciting. I can't wait to watch the Jazz next season. If let's say that the lottery doesn't screw them this time, as it has so often.
It will.
It will. But if it doesn't, let's say they get Darren Peterson. Okay. Keontae George, Darren Peterson, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Walker Kessler.
You didn't even mention Ace Bailey in that.
I did not. That's a wagon. That's a wagon. That is scoring, athleticism, size, length, shot blocking, rebounding, spacing. All of it. All of it. It's great, man. They've got more assets they can move before Thursday. There's some talk that Isaiah Collier might be a buy low candidate for another team. They're going to be able to move off of some of these veterans that are just kind of hanging around. That's really good. The biggest thing about this is they don't have to absolutely slam in this draft. That was one of the things I had. I was like, all right, well, what happens if you get screwed in the lottery again? What if you wind up 6th or 5th, right? What does that do to you? And it's like, okay, the worst case scenario here is you take Rashard Fleming. Like, that's it. Like, that's the worst case scenario here. Now, if they land, the funny part is, like, what if they get 3rd and it's AJ Debonsa with the kind of bigs that you've now added? Jaren is such a great player, man. He's a great player. He's a great person. He's a total pro. I was very hard on Jaren early because I had high expectations of him. I was like, you have to hit this. Like, you can be great. And so I was constantly online criticizing him. Not like he cared, but like, I was holding him to be like, you've got to develop. He did everything, man. In the Lakers series, when Dylan Brooks and Ja were talking trash and then not answering questions post game, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane came, like, talked to the media, said, we got to play better. It's a tough loss. Like, did the thing. When they were tanking, Jaren got his game better. He played when they asked him to play. Jaren is going to be great on this team. It's an absolutely great fit. I'm very excited about the Jazz.
My prediction here, by the way, is the Jazz are going to end up with the number 1 pick in this draft. That's how basketball karma works. I think because they did the right thing in here by ending the rebuild, which had been pretty shameless the last couple of years, and that's why they get screwed in the lottery. My prediction is, now that they've officially tried to end the tank and do the right thing and actually make their team better, they're going to end up with the number 1 pick. That's at least my prediction here. But let's talk about the Grizzlies part of this here, because it's clear now that the rebuild is on. They traded Desmond Bane in the summer. They traded Jaren Jackson Jr. Now the attention turns back to Ja Morant. Here's more from Locked On Grizzlies.
Is Ja Morant going to be a member of the Memphis Grizzlies by the time the trade deadline passes, in your opinion?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, he won't be a member of the Grizzlies. I believe the Grizzlies have maintained the same position. We're listening to offers, but we're not going to just move Ja for anything. But, I made my phone calls. Since the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, I've just been talking to people. There's a sense, at least, people feel like the Grizzlies will lower the offer in order to trade Ja, because of the fact that they just got a nice haul for Jaren Jackson Jr. As not the indication that I've gotten on the Grizzlies side of things, but when I talk to other people, there is that sense. And look, as the trade deadline gets closer, I do think that they end up moving Ja.
Matt, I know you've got a lot of thoughts on this. I know you feel strongly about this. How did we get here? What does this all mean for the Memphis Grizzlies?
How did we get here? How did we get here? How did we get here? We got here when the front office started messing with the coaching staff. That is where this started, when they drafted Zach Edey. I'm not kidding. Everyone thinks that this is like a troll job about it. No, I'm not kidding, Wes. Like, go back and look at the comments after the draft. They talked about Zach Edey as being like the piece that was going to get them over the top. When they fired Taylor Jenkins after putting assistants under him that took the offense away and then firing for the offense that he wasn't running, one of the reasons that was cited by multiple reports was they didn't like the way that Ja and Edey were being used. Except that when you talk to Ja's like, I love Taylor. So you moved to this offense that didn't make that Ja was clearly not on board with. Then you fired Jenkins because you wanted to make sure that Zach Edey got more push. Then you go into the season with a Solo who has ruined both Ja and Jaren's trade value. I get it. Ja's the jumper's not there. Hasn't been able to finish. Hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's a pain. He's got bad off-court habits and people around him. All of these things are true. Did you put him in the best position? No, you didn't. What did you do? You built a team around Zach Edey. That's what they did. And now they're moving on from it. Now 2 players that you could have built with, that you've proven you can win, you made the 2 seed, are gone. And I'm not going to be surprised if Ja gets healthy, if the jumper comes around and he has a great career after this. I'm expecting great things from Jaren. To me, this all started with drafting Zach Edey and then messing with the coaching staff to build the kind of team you want rather than letting coaches do their jobs.
Well, Matt just went off.
Feel better now. God, that felt good.
When it comes to Ja, I read something this morning that the Grizzlies, with the return they got on Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, they're ready to sell lower on Ja. And it's time. It's time to go ahead and move on. Let's completely clear the deck. Let's reset everything here. And I think when you look at how the Grizzlies got here, there's been all the match points. I don't disagree with any of them, but I also think just they didn't live up to their expectations. They missed their window. They missed their window to be great between injuries and Ja Morant not excelling and taking steps forward and just being a head case at times. That's where it's led you. And that's why franchises working out and being able to sustain with basically the same roster and win over a long period of time, it's so rare. It has to be so many things that go right, from the front office to coaching to the players to everything to injuries. Everything has to go right. And it just all went wrong for the Memphis Grizzlies over the last 2 or 3 years. We just saw it completely fall apart.
And this might work because because as much as I've killed this front office, you know what they're great at? They're great at drafting. They're great at drafting. And hey, if you rebuild, can't fire him. Can't fire the front office. They're rebuilding. Got to give him time to see all these picks work out. And it will. Zach Edey's plus minus is incredible. Every indication is that Zach Edey is a winning player who's going to impact winning. Cedric Coward is a monster. I love Cedric Coward. Who doesn't love Cedric Coward? So there's reason to be excited if you're a Memphis fan, because it's you're going to have a lot of young talent. It's going to be very exciting. I just think that this was a wasted opportunity to build on something and a player that Memphis really loved and connected with in Ja Morant.
It's so reminiscent of the last time the Grizzlies did this with the Mike Conley, Zach Randolph, Marcus Gasol. And look, they pulled the plug on that relatively early. They were able to rebuild from that relatively quickly. And now with all the assets they've gotten from Bane and Jaren Jackson and perhaps maybe even Ja Morant, depending on what that trade ends up looking like, maybe they'll be able to fast track another rebuild here again and put a team together here. I do want to ask you guys about, teams that Ja Morant could play for next, because that's, a pretty important part in terms of trading Ja Morant is finding somebody to trade for him. We'll talk about that. Plus, we only have 24 hours, a little bit more, before the trade deadline. We're going to talk about the latest on Giannis and whether he gets moved after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online, and they handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every deduction possible. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. So for a limited time, you can have access to you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in if a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Daily your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. Check out Locked On Cavs, Locked On Clippers, Locked On Grizzlies, Locked On Jazz for more on today's top stories. Before we get to the latest on Giannis, Haize, when you look around the trade market, is there a team that makes sense now for Ja Morant? You just heard DeMichael Cole say he does think that Morant gets traded before the deadline.
Yeah, I especially with the lower now asking price report. If that's true, if they are willing to sell lower on Ja Morant, it's your Miami Heat. Because if the Miami Heat can keep enough assets to then later and pursue Giannis or any other star, I think that's the team that still makes the most sense for Ja Morant.
What you got to find is a team that's basically looking to clear cap space so that it can re-sign its other guys is kind of what you want to do here. is like you want to. I don't know that the Heat are the best fit from that perspective, and they're not going to send like Wes has talked about this on Locked On Heat. Like they're not sending anything. Like it's nothing for Ja, nothing. Like if my options are like the Terry Rozier expiring or Zach LaVine, go get Zach LaVine. Like that's totally fine. Like a good question is who has to send assets in that deal? Who's more valuable, Ja Morant or Zach LaVine? Because if the Kings are like, we just want to dump the money, we'll give you a second round pick. Fine, cool, great. Get any asset for it. Try and drop as much money as you can. They also need to move Santi Aldama. The Suns need to call about Santi. I think the Suns actually have called about Santi Aldama. They need to move Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They need to move every veteran. Move them all. You're just taking on bad money right now for assets. So unless there's another team that comes in and is like looking to move, the problem is just like nobody's looking to dump salary unless you're just trying to get under the tax because you don't have free agency anymore. So yeah, I think it's going to be Kings or Heat are the only two realistic options here.
Some rumblings this morning that the Heat might be trying to get Giannis and Ja Morant before the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This happened before with Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal. Like this was a thing a couple summers ago. I don't know how much this is or just people trying to fill the void of silence that is emanating right now from Miami. We just haven't heard very much from the Heat's perspective, but we'll see what happens. But the Giannis part of this, right? Right now, Giannis still in Milwaukee. He had conversations with local reporters on Tuesday, making it a point to double down on how much he loves the city of Milwaukee. And talked about how he always wanted to finish his career there, but also made the point that he wants to win above all else. Unclear, guys, if Giannis is going to get moved before the deadline on Thursday, but all the local reporting or all the national reporting is still, suggesting it's the same teams that have been rumored to be aggressive this entire time. Miami, Minnesota, Golden State are the top three teams right now. It does sound like maybe the Golden State thing has cooled a little bit based on some stuff coming out of the Giannis camp. New York isn't mentioned as much anymore either, but the Timberwolves were the team making all the moves yesterday, the Mike Conley salary dump, all that stuff. They are clearly trying to get aggressive in making this Giannis thing happen. Matt, are you hearing anything on this?
So I'm not hearing anything, but I will tell you this is a couple things come out this morning. One, last night, two different outlets, Anthony Irwin, who covers the Lakers for Offside, and Mark Stein of the Stein Line, both reported that the Lakers are a potential suitor if they can get to the summer. That is not coincidental. Somebody's reached out and is trying to like make it known, hey, like trying to put as much pressure as possible on the Bucks to be like, just wait. Somebody else reported that this morning that teams are basically begging the Bucks, just wait, and we'll have more this summer. Same thing with the Knicks, same thing with the Heat. More picks open up this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see there's any way he gets traded because if you're the Bucks and he's not, I continue to say this, if Giannis walks in and is like, hey, I'm ready, I don't want to deal with this anymore, you got to move me, they'll be like, all right, cool, and they'll take the best offer available. Until he does that, they are handling this the way Nico Harrison should have handled Luka, right? Which is like, one, Luka didn't want to leave, but if Luka had wanted to leave, you get as many assets, you set a bar, and then you wait till the summer when more assets open up, and then you raise it even more. You get the best possible return. Because you get to the summer, you don't know what's going to, like, if it's Austin Reeves, 2 more picks with the Lakers, Rui Hachimura, and they'll take Kuzma, yes, 100% yes. Give me Austin Reeves and 2 long-term Lakers picks over the Warriors' bag of crap. Like, absolutely 100%. So if someone comes in and gets this deal, it's because Milwaukee has determined that the asset they're offering is so valuable, they can't risk it not being there this summer. That to me is the equation right now going into Thursday.
Yeah, that's fair. When you hear even like Milwaukee and Giannis, like I read some stuff today, the whole thing from Giannis and talking about how much he loves the city of Milwaukee, how much he views that as home, but he still left it up. Like how much longer can he wait? But then you hear Milwaukee's like, hey, just wait. Let's see what happens. If we get some lottery luck and we get one of these top 3, top 5 picks in this draft, like what does that do for us? So it still seems like it always has been to me that both sides want to hold on to this, but they just realize that it's not a realistic chance that it's going to work out for them to wait. I do think the Bucks wait till the offseason. I think they wait till the draft. It just makes more sense. You know where all the picks are and more picks are available as well. I think they wait till the offseason at this point.
They're also, according to Stein, there is hope in Milwaukee that they can win the lottery and convince him to stay. Which just like, even if you trade it, just like, come on, guys, come on, let's be serious. Like they really got it. They got it. Even it might just be posturing to be like, hey, we might just keep him. I get that. I get that. I'm just saying, let's not take that seriously. We are too far past the point here with Giannis. I can't see any way that he returns next season for the Bucks.
I still think he's moving before the deadline.
I mean, it's good for us if he is.
Toothpaste out of the tube, etc. Human element part of this. I just think it's really hard for everybody after everybody sort of decided that this is it. To your point, Matt, I think everything that we're hearing in terms of we might keep him is all posturing, trying to leverage and get the best offer possible. I just think like if there's an offer that's out there that's good enough, I think Milwaukee just says, okay, we're done. Let's take it. And Giannis maybe does apply that pressure behind the scenes. I don't know. It just feels like everybody's ready.
There's no indication that Milwaukee is just like over this. There's no indication that Milwaukee's like, we're miserable and we got to get this done because it's killing everybody in the building. They're just kind of like, yeah, it's what it is. It's fine. Like I don't think that you can usually tell. Now I think the team sucks, right? But I don't think that there's any sort of indication that the team as a whole is like, we got to move on from this. It's just too miserable. I think that there is a real, like, we're not going to screw up this trade, which is good because you should definitely not. And to Giannis's never-ending credit, he hasn't limited their options. Like he hasn't been like, I'm only going to the Warriors. I want to go to Miami. I want to go to Minnesota. I want to go to New York. He hasn't done that. And he's given them options, which is what you should do for the franchise that has given you a lot and that you have given them so much.
Well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, a little bit more rather than 24 hours until the NBA trade deadline. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon to talk about everything going on with the trade deadline. Should be a lot more happening between now and then. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thanks for making Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow live on Locked On NBA Daily.